35.1 is infectious diseases. Okay, so for thousands of years, people believed that diseases were caused by curses, evil spirits, or vapors rising from foul marshes or dead plants and animals. And in fact, malaria was named after the Italian words mal aria, which means bad air. This isn't all surprising because until microscopes were invented, most causes of disease were invisible to the human eye. So what causes infectious diseases? Infectious diseases can be caused by viruses, bacteria, fungi, single-celled eukaryotes, and parasites. So during the mid-19th century, Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch, K-O-C-H, Koch, established a scientific explanation for infectious diseases. So their observations and experiments led them to conclude that infectious diseases are caused by microorganisms. And microorganisms are commonly called germs. So this conclusion was called the germ theory of disease. Infectious diseases are caused by pathogens, organisms that invade the body and disrupt its normal functions. So examples are viruses, bacteria, single-celled eukaryotes, fungi, and parasites. Viruses are non-living particles that replicate by inserting their genetic material into a host cell and taking over many of the host cell functions. Viruses cause the common cold, influenza, chickenpox, warts, coronavirus. Bacteria cause disease by breaking down the tissues of an infected organism for food or releasing toxins that interfere with the normal activity of the host. Bacteria cause streptococcus infections, diphtheria, botulism, and anthrax. Different types of fungus may infect the surface of the skin, mouth, throat, fingernails, and toenails. Dangerous infections may spread from the lungs to other organs. It's a fungus that causes athlete's foot. It's a single-celled eukaryote called Plasmodium that causes malaria, which is a very damaging infectious disease. Another single-celled eukaryote causes African sleeping sicknesses. And many of these are spread to humans by insects. Some are actually infections of just the digestive tract, say by infected water. So people may be infected with a roundworm from eating infected pork. The flatworm can be contracted by people working in rice paddies. Other parasitic worms include the tapeworms and the hookworms. So Koch's studies with bacteria led him to develop rules for identifying the microorganisms that cause a specific disease. These rules are known as Koch's postulates. The pathogen must always be found in the body of a sick organism and should not be found in a healthy one. The pathogen must be isolated and grown in the laboratory in a pure culture. When the cultured pathogens are introduced into a healthy host, they should cause the same disease that infected the original host. And the injected pathogen must be isolated from the second host if it should be identical to the original pathogen. So although there are exceptions to these rules, they remain important guidelines for identifying the causes of new and emerging diseases. Most microorganisms that live and grow in the human body are symbionts that are either harmless or actually beneficial. Yeast and bacteria grow in the mouth and throat without causing trouble. Bacteria in the large intestines help with digestion and produce vitamins. What's the difference between harmless microorganisms and pathogens that cause disease? Well, the good guys obtain nutrients, They grow and reproduce without disturbing any normal body functions. The bad guys cause problems in various ways. So some virus and bacteria directly destroy the cells of their host. Other bacteria and single-cell parasites release poisons that kill the host cells or interfere with their normal functions. Parasitic worms may block the blood flow through the blood vessels or organs, take up the host's nutrients, or disrupt other body functions. So, how are infectious diseases spread? Some diseases are spread through coughing, sneezing, physical contact, or exchange of body fluids. Some diseases are spread through contaminated water or food. Still, other diseases are spread to humans from infected animals. Pathogens are often spread by symptoms of disease, such as sneezing, coughing, or diarrhea. In many cases, these symptoms are changes in host behavior that help pathogens spread and infect new hosts. If a virus infects only one host, that virus will die when the host's immune system kills it or when the host dies. For that reason, natural selection favors pathogens with adaptations that help them spread from host to host. So many bacteria and viruses that infect the nose, throat, and the respiratory tract are spread by indirect contact. Coughing and sneezing releases thousands of tiny droplets that can be inhaled by other people. Pardon me. Those droplets also settle on objects such as doorknobs. If you touch these objects and then touch your mouth or nose, like I just did, you can transfer the pathogens to a new home. The ability of a flu virus or a tuberculosis bacterium to cause a host to sneeze or cough is an adaptation that increases transmission of the pathogen from one host to another. Other pathogens, including drug-resistant staphylococci that cause skin infections, can be transferred by almost any kind of body-to-body contact. They can also be transferred by contact with towels or certain kinds of sports equipment. So if you have a cold, let me back up. The most important means of infection control is through frequent hand washing. And if you have a cold or a flu, cover your mouth with a tissue when you cough or sneeze and wash your hands regularly. Some pathogens require specific kinds of direct contact to be transmitted from host to host. A wide range of diseases, including herpes, gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, are transmitted by sexual activity. Therefore, these diseases are called sexually transmitted diseases. And sexually transmitted diseases can only be completely prevented by avoiding sexual activity. Other diseases, including certain forms of hepatitis, can be transmitted among users of injected drugs through blood from shared syringes. HIV can be transmitted from blood or sexual contact. And many pathogens that infect the digestive tract are spread through water contaminated with feces from infected people or other animals. Contaminated water may be consumed, or it may carry pathogens onto fruits and vegetables. If those fruits are eaten without being washed thoroughly, infection can result. Symptoms of these diseases often include serious diarrhea, another adaptation that helps pathogens spread from one host to another, especially in places with poor sanitation. So bacteria of several kinds are commonly present in seafood and uncooked meat, especially ground meat. So if meats and seafood are not stored and cooked properly, illness can result. Any disease that can be transmitted from animals to humans is called zoonosis. Mad cow disease, severe acute respiratory disease, SARS, West Nile virus, Lyme disease, Ebola, the bird flu, Corona-19, COVID-19 are all zoonodes. Sometimes an animal carries or transfers zoonotic diseases from an animal host to a human host. These carriers are called vectors that transport the pathogen but usually do not get sick themselves. Mosquitoes can transfer West Nile virus between birds and humans. In other cases, infection may occur when a person is bitten by an infected animal, consumes the meat of an infected animal, or comes in close contact with an infected animal's waste or secretions.